Very quiet here. A very drab background I have here, but I am back at a law school in Mecca. So if you were in the New York City area, I am starting to come back. Peace. Peace, Luke Cage. If by chance there are random students, which I doubt, I think that many, like when I first started teaching here, it'll just be me in this room. But peace-wise, you. But as I go along, who knows? You know, who knows who might want to come through and build. A lot of this being in this school feels more like for myself. I don't know if everybody feels comfortable to come to a school when they could learn online. But the point is that I offer that convenience, you know what I mean? The people that most likely do not go to class, do not study enough, really want to study but expect to study are the ones that tell me coming to class now versus online is kind of like the people that tell me that they like to read physical books better. They always seem to be the ones that read less or have a reason not to read because they don't have those books. They only want them physical. Yeah, even though I'm giving it to you, they want it physical. All right? And there's always a reason. All right. So I'm just here riffing. There's a lot of things I would like to go over. If you see the video wobble, I chose a chair that wobbles. So I will try not to wobble too much. All right. Well, let me have these desk chairs. I don't have a more distant chair. If it goes with teaching many students, I would just turn the chair so that I could stand up and address them. So no problem though. But obviously, I miss being at home teaching. Then as soon as I finish, I could go lie down and read. The comforts. I had first world problem builds. You know what I mean? Get so used to teaching out here in the street. Got this knowledge in 1999 when Harlem still wasn't gentrified. Here I see white women let their dogs piss in front of trees and feel right at home. But it's an odd gentrification, Harlem. You don't see any kind of economics that we're doing to try to organize, you know, and this is something that I saw in the emails God knowledge Allah asked me about. I'm going to answer some of these questions later. But I find it interesting, very interesting, this lack of economy. There doesn't seem to be a need
to localize ourselves. You see, we always like, this hustler culture, get shit at all means. I know. There are brothers that I'll be building with. And they'll have every reason in the world because they had to do it themselves. No one was there to help them, so they had to hustle themselves. Whether in righteous maneuvers or not, illegal or legal tender. But when you look at things as a community and walk into, I'm going to say this, the most famous neighborhood, the most famous black neighborhood in the world. There you go. That's it. Harlem is the most famous black neighborhood in the world. Anyone that's learned it a little bit knows this place. And gentrification happens all around in certain blocks. They pester through certain blocks. They go through certain areas. And when I look at our people, there doesn't seem to be, there's a word I'm looking for. I don't know why it's escaping me. Let me see if I can look it up and describe it. It's a good word. It's really. I didn't find the word, but the word that describes, I don't know if this is the word I'm looking for. It didn't strike me, but there seems to be no haste to try to unify the economies, to say that we do all these things. Let's unify these economies and form some kind of green shield, some kind of economic shield, so that way people don't continue to keep coming in and coming in and coming in. I don't see that. I don't. No. It is as wobbly as this chair. Let's see if I can switch. Well, we might be successful here. Imagine if I get to that spot and it's really the spot that is wobbly and not the chair. This could be another Harlem conundrum. All right. Switch over. And there we go. Yeah, just like my conundrum here. It seems insolvable. This chair is wobbling too, so it's clearly the spot. Let me see if I can just move. I just don't have much cord slack. Oh, law school can be evil. When there's no mystery god, it's all up to the chair. Right? All right. So I did not solve the wobbly chair. However, I did solve the ease in my mind that I cannot solve it. You see that? Because I gave it a shot. So now I know that there is no shot. So we'll just deal with it like that. You know what I mean? Right? Hopefully I can share some good things with you all, and I won't get a thumbs down, and my life will continue to be miraculous. Now, it's peace now, Jalal. Peace, peace. Yes, Mom lived in Harlem. See, Luke, you said instead of including us or they're accommodating them. I think it's a little bit different. I think it's not really that. It's not, peace, Quatis. It's not that they're accommodating them. Here's the thought I'm having. Right? Let me give you this thought I'm having and what I see. It's that we continue to do our economics like an individual hustle. And so everybody is all crabs in a barrel. You know what I mean? And we don't know it's crabs in a barrel because the barrel seems to not be, it doesn't seem to be that narrow at the top. And in this kind of crabs in the barrel reality, you don't see yourself climbing over anyone. But it's all here's the word for it. The economics I see in Harlem is also self-inclined to benefit individuals, individual groups, and hopefully a particular family, right? Hopefully a family. But when you walk around Harlem or you walk around your own neighborhoods, everything seems predatory. You see what I'm saying? Out of everyone, we have been so oppressed that economics is something that when we're dealing with each other, it is completely predatory. You know what I mean? And I'm not faulting, and it's hard to fault the individual with sincerity because they have not gotten any kind of aid. The young, they might rhyme, they might say things, but they've gotten no help. They've gotten no aid. And so even when they succeed, every line, every bar, every creative outlet, especially the rhyme, I had to hustle. I had to go against this. I had to do this. I had to do that. And it's all hustle, hustle, hustle. My individual salvation because no one else will save me. And we deal with that. Save self before we save others. But what happens is that self-savior is to save self and others. Knowledge born, making knowledge born, right? To yourself, but that borns what? Knowledge add on a cipher. And then now, what will you add to the cipher? Self-savior. It is a much more complex reality than I. But there's no doubt that whether they have to We could pull an individual. We could pull the most ratchet looking hustler out there. And I mean legal or illegal, right? Savage or supposedly civilized and allowable. I could pull anybody out. And most likely anyone will be justifiable. Anyone will be justifiable. Anyone. We work jobs that are predatory. So when we're forced to do for ourselves, we don't have a model. You see? But see, when I walk through Harlem, what I see is like the only thing people come here is to see the things that we eat, to see us and to see us be lively and be a show and make a show of ourselves. And even if you're not selling something, you're excited to be part of the show, and you're an unwilling asset because the young are so willing to be part of a show, selfie time, whatever it is, be part of a show, that they become the willing, unconscious assets to all of these predatory businesses out there. And you could live in Harlem. You could be white and you could live in Harlem. And when it's time for you to be down with black folk and do some of the things that they do, you can. Because you don't have to embed yourself in the culture. There are products for you to buy and services for you to engage in to experience the culture of the neighborhood that you just came in to gentrificate. Oh, it's an amazing thing. Who are we to tell the individual black man, black woman, black family that decides to say they're coming in and they have some type of wealth to spend, let us exploit this now new consumer market, right? Because that's what we learned. We learned supply, demand. We got supply. We always have supply. We are always supplying. We're always making to give. We're always making to give. And it takes skin off and it takes pieces off and it withers away, and we'll keep giving pieces. And anything that we get and that we use, it gets given back to them in a style that they never seen before. A new product, a new service. I don't know the individual micro solutions that need to go on in place. You know what I mean? In my life, I have lived here as much as you could live in a neighborhood without actually sleeping in the neighborhood regularly. You know? The truth is, the time I've spent in Mecca has been years, months, and days. Because it's not just these Thursday nights that number over 1,000. But all the other days that I had to spend around here to learn and to be and to interact. And this is on my mind. I guess this is what I'm seeing, because for those that don't know, right? I am certainly gentrification is definitely on the mind. It's certainly something that I had been thinking about lately. Being part of the Leftovers NYC group with Prince Power Rule, now known as Marcano, you know, him organizing all of us, though, like-minded producers, poets, MCs, thinkers, you know. And I had the responsibility and the blessing to lead or to be part of this anti-gentrification group and lead off the album with thoughts on it. Because I recently interviewed him, we recently had a discourse on one of my shows. This is on my mind, and this is the first time I've been back to Harlem since January. And you know what? Throughout these COVID times, I'll tell you what I didn't see stop. I didn't see the restaurants. The minute that they could sell something, there's no such thing as like restaurants in Harlem, okay? You know what I mean? Not the way I like, I go to restaurants to talk and stuff, maybe with the party occasionally, right? But they don't have restaurants for me. We're going to go on a quiet date. Talk to your lady quiet, though. You know, get to know her. You know, have a meal that is tasty, but not too heavy. See what happens. This is not the place for it. This is for a show. You know what I mean? Let me see the show of black folk. And everybody can lament it, but they don't even notice it. They don't even notice this is how it's going. And then there's other, you look at other let me tell you, there's only one neighborhood in New York City that I've been to where the original people do that. At an even more extreme level, because people be thinking it's just African American. And that's the Heights. You know what I mean? The Heights is literally giving away the entire Dyckman Street, all the way to the water. Take the one to Dyckman and get off. And the hoes abound aplenty. Just remember, bachata is 4-step. Just in case you want to go uptown and snatch something, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. See, I don't even have to move. That's all you need to do. You know what I mean? I'm talking to all you brothers and sisters. Most of my students are original. I already taught them how to get in. I used to be part of movements where we'd go up into Spanish Harlem and we'd see stores that were literally, you know, Puerto Rican bookstores, where Latinos from everywhere, Latin America, Latin Caribbean, they were all trying to get their culture, find it back. The black bookstores, you know, see what it feels like to go to a bookstore. Do you know what it feels like to take a youngster to a bookstore? Be that youngster that goes to a bookstore and gets blown away by the heroes, the legends, the mass amount of history, the depth, you know what I mean? The depth of things, you know what I mean, that you're missing out on, you know? I know what that feels like. You know what I mean? I know what that feels like. I remember going to a Puerto Rican bookstore. It wasn't there that long. And I saw somebody talking about Pedro Albizu Campos. Right? I had already known enough that from the beginning of my college career, where I did a speech that argued that Puerto Rico should be a state, I was already being radicalized and saying, realizing that that speech I gave that I got a good grade on it was trash. If you want to, you did have videos though. I have a video of me promoting Puerto Rican statehood. Remember Sunez when he was selling out. So this is way before Righteous Name, before I ever wrote a journal, before I ever wrote a hip hop article. Right? And I went to that bookstore and I'm seeing all these Puerto Rican things. And of course, I'm still in the realization that I don't know enough. I had taken a course and started my friendship and lifelong friendship with my mentor, Dr. David Travelso Galarza, PhD, the only Puerto Rican first one I ever met with a PhD and 7 master's degrees. And the class was Puerto Rican history up to the American invasion. So I didn't know who Pedro Albizu Campos was. I didn't know who that was. You know what I mean? Peace to the God, infinite mind. Peace, Malik. Malik, I still have books. I don't know if I sent you books. There was another student or another interested person asked me for books. And the one that I really wanted to get to him, I didn't have it. And I had to wait to get it. So I'm behind in setting books up. So it's great. We're talking about books, so keep it in my head. I go to that bookstore. I lived on 48th and 5th most of my life. 48th Street between 5th and 6th. Around the area where Doom did his Doom video. MF Doom, Remembered Imperfection. A couple of blocks up, it was where I live now. Between 7th and 8th. But I made my way down to that bookstore that was new. And I hear a conversation. Somebody's talking about Albizu. And the guy is talking about how Albizu was for our people like nobody else, though, and that they killed him. And I looked, I turned around because I didn't know who this was. I didn't get up to that. I literally didn't get up to that. He started to shed a tear, got emotional. You know what I mean? About Pedro Albizu Campos. Right? Yeah, I didn't send them yet, Malik. I'll get them out to you. All right? I've been behind in my email, so I had to rework. It actually had to do with some of my personal goals. I had to rework the way I do them. So that's been reworked. So now I'll be able to do this, you know what I mean? But I saw him cry. Grown man, big brother, crying, getting emotional about Pedro Albizu Campos. And I said, I got to learn about that. And these bookstores I went to, I would go to that bookstore. I would go to Revolution Books and start learning about revolution and see the differences. You know what I mean? How much of the revolution, the most revolutionary, radical, 20 miles outside of the left wing, that's how left wing all the way over these whites were, and what type of books they sold, and what type of books were missing from our people, the real jewels. And so when I got this knowledge of self, that's where I went, to these bookstores. And Savior Knowledge was selling books. And so he became my bookstore. But I don't see that. I walk down and I see books being sold. I rarely see anything that's good. I just see I see literature. Maybe some of it's good. I'm sure a majority of it, if not all of it, is very entertaining. But where's the deeper stuff? I don't know. And see, Quatis, you said that was a powerful dude. Haven't read so much about Abizu yet, but read a little bit in War Against All Puerto Ricans. Abizu Campos, his speeches were to me more incendiary than Malcolm X's speeches. They were more blood for blood than Malcolm X's speeches. And Malcolm was no softy out there, right? But he was taken out fast, and he was oppressed, and they radiated him. They killed him slowly via radiation. And it was, it was brutal. Brutal. But I'm saying that because I walk around Harlem and I don't see anything but predatory businesses. Our people's mentality is, how can I exploit everything that's going around me? Or if I have to, exploit myself to get them to purchase. All the while, other half original or original, however you want to say it, have commandeered all of the necessary businesses, the businesses every neighborhood needs. No one got together and said, we're going to buy up every corner store here. We're going to buy up all of this space here. And no, nobody did that. Nobody did that. And how are we supposed to do that when all of us have a predatory mindset? We are prey, and we are attacking back by being predatory. You see? And it makes it so much easier to gentrify. And it's all a bunch of bullshit to go out there and say that shit. To tell people who have been preyed on, and I mean successfully preyed on. People have a lot of nerve to say that they did it to themselves. They have been successfully preyed on. They cannot see a future of their savings. So why save it? Why save it? You know what I mean? If they make money, peace. If they make savings, right? Then it usually has to be turned back to another performance, another showing, right? Just very, very disappointing. Very disappointing. I remember walking through Mecca when I first started teaching here. And I remember being those type of original people that people frowned upon over here. And I would be upset about that. And I'd say, I'm not the one that's taking this, you know what I mean? I'm not the one that's taking this from you. And who we are, it's being taken. Large chunks of it taken. And they still won't look at who's really taking it. Can only change the mindset of the youth and the way that they engage their culture. I don't think that there's any way to reach our people unless we teach them how to make culture. The reason I say that is because the society that we live in today for our people is absolutely mandatory that there is an incredible impact of culture. Music, dance, and film cannot be seen as something to not teach. You see? It is something that is absolutely impacting the nature and the choices that people make. The choices that they see either via the actual product or the producer of the product. They will either listen to the what is the product, the shit lyric, or the lifestyle of the producer of the lyric. So if they say, it's just pop songs, I'm not really affected, but the life that individual that made that trash is being emulated and seen as a formula for excellence. It's a big problem. Peace. You can't change people that have been forced to survive this way. You can only teach the daring that are willing to sacrifice because they have new ideas, and their new ideas cannot be made in this world, and that is the youth. So we need to actually teach youth culture. You have to teach youth that they have to give you, like I always say, that earth, wind, and fire. They got to give you the reasons that they hear, the reasons why they are liking something. My children, I wouldn't let them listen to certain things if they didn't give me the reasons. Why do you like that? What is the reasoning? You see? Because even if they listen to something that is absolutely wasteful, they will be able to discern that there is a level of lack of respect that ought to be offered in that. That they, even if that there are things they might enjoy and engage in, that they need to have a lack of respect for. And that the respect must be earned for those that truly can make real culture, because it is influencing. Go to Washington Heights on a Saturday night or a Sunday, the entire Sunday. I ain't seen none of these Dominicans in any hip hop cipher make anything that I have ever seen that is not trash. And they are successfully emulating, with all of the lackluster results, all of the shit that they think what culture ought to be. That's who you see. That's who you see. You know what I mean? And you see a community. People go uptown, go to Dykeman though. Maybe you Rung brothers. But they go to Dykeman to go dance around. Spanish trap reggaeton, dance around, get some skins, blow some ends, get some drugs, enjoy some drugs. No one leaves up there and says, I was out there and I know how these people cook. I know how these people live. I know these people's life. I know the worth of their language and their dialects. You don't know a damn thing. Just like when people come to Harlem and they leave, they don't know a damn thing about black people at all. Not one thing. Culture trash. It's like we made it for them. So, you know what I mean? Hungry for the investment. I seen all the way back when I was all the way back as a young man, I've seen people talk about, I think it was Bobby Shmurda when he danced on a table to get on the label. I seen that 20 years ago. I seen kids, black and brown, be given books, magazines, and say, pick what you want to look like so we can figure out how we're going to sell you. See if we like it. Peace to God, Saeem. Perfect moment for God to come in. That's the whole thing, Saeem. People bask in the glory of Dominican cleavage. Right? And mountains of buttocks. And I don't know what the hell they know about the good of Dominican culture. You know what I mean? And every day that happens, every week that happens in a place like Dykeman, weakens whatever Dominican culture is. It weakens it. Nothing unites people as quickly as bad music. I don't want to hear all that We Are the World shit. I don't want to hear all that. Quality music, dynamic music, incredible music. The world is very rarely united by that. We are selling ourselves via immediate gratification, and it is justified because of our needs for immediate tender. You know what I mean? Immediate funds. Mm-hmm. I lived in Dykeman for 12 years, and there was one bookstore that had real cultural goods. It didn't serve me very well because my Spanish sucks and all the books were in Spanish, you know what I mean? But it served the community, and he eventually went out of business. So similar to the one I told you in my own neighborhood, right? Like so many in Spanish Harlem, and like all of these great bookstores in Harlem. It is very disappointing. And I think that the only way to combat it, though, is to teach youth culture. Every time they hear something bad, the palette changes. You know what I mean? You could have the most well-constructed, complex rhythm here, but if you beat down the head with a simple rhythm that doesn't even have melody, pretty soon the complex rhythm is going to sound terrible. It is going to sound jarring and is not going to be absorbed. Everything is based on your palate. And only the children have the patience, only the children have the excitement, the exuberance, and even sometimes they got to sit down anyway and hear this shit. Right? You tell my two daughters, they got to sit down and hear the good stuff. You know what I mean? Let me see, I missed something here. Wise you said today is to grow and continue to develop ideas, to be the best at all things with the awareness that portraits will make the worst ideas to cause society of filth in all of he or her affairs. Yeah. Malik, the golden era of all things. What a pity, though. We probably have parents that are teaching their kids that the 2000s was the best era of hip hop music. And they don't even, and they're using poor examples. Right? Quatiz, you said it goes back to what you were saying a few sessions ago about the people being in such a state of survival that they have such a hard time building up different choices. Exactly. You know what I mean? And that's why you got to teach the kids. You got to teach the youth. And the roots of bachata are very intriguing. Very intriguing. Peace. Give me a minute. All right. All right. The roots, the roots is so important because when we talk about last week, I talked about the Son of Man, right? Son, rebirth of mind, man, mind, rebirth of mind. When you know your history, when you know your roots, then you see yourself in a continuum. You know what I mean? And there is importance now. There's also responsibility. You don't know your roots, though, then you don't really respect that there is anything that you could even make that would be worthwhile. You know what I mean? You don't have the right to challenge any paradigms that are wrong. Just succeed under those paradigms. You know? That's a big problem. Yeah. Yeah. You know? There are some things to get into. More things to build on. I would like people to ask the questions that they have. Anything about anything, 783. I see you in here. That's peace. He Kareem, peace. Whoever I missed. Hey, Bliss, peace. Okay. Sometimes you got to identify the problems before you can have a solution. And sometimes it's okay to not be able to solve the problem immediately or have the solution. All right, let me go into my notes. Anybody have any builds on today's mathematics? Just some thoughts, if you weren't watching it live and engaging it, as Quartis was, uh, watching it later, or if you were, I want to give you some pedagogical ideas, some ideas about the science of teaching. Last week, I think everyone during that exercise on the truth of knowledge and the validity of knowledge got some really great answers. I was very impressed, as I have been very much lately, with everyone that's learning here and coming in to learn. And I was very impressed. I think that some of the answers I got after people thought about it were even more impressive and very useful to me too. I will say this. Take note of that pedagogical technique. Sometimes when a student has their questions resolved with an answer, then they don't seek to apply it. It's almost as if it doesn't need to go to born anymore. As if it's already finished, it's completed. And for example, we're talking about gentrification, things like that. They don't have an end all answer. You know what I mean? Because we could talk about, we could always criticize people in the middle of oppression. Oh, that's savage, that's this, but you know, you don't know what that feels like to be in the middle of that. You know what I mean? It's like when we watch sports, we'll have some real great commentary about, oh man, he really should have drove left and scooped it under. But the truth is that it might be really, really hard to stay in the air that long and scoop it under. You know what I mean? And scoop it under that arm that's coming. That's a wingspan of about 8 feet. And sometimes it can't be done. You know what I mean? After I just finished running up and down for 3 quarters. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking. Judgments from outside the bubble. You know what I mean? So when we analyze certain things, they need not have an answer to be thrown out. That's why I wrote that piece. I said, let the question remain. I was using Gangstar's The Question Remains. You know what I mean? The question remains. But the thing is, though, sometimes it's okay to let the question remain. And in your way of sharing with the youth and teaching sometimes, especially to the gifted student, it's not always the lazy ass one. The one that you're given civilization, righteousness, but not the knowledge of self. You can only get awareness and civilization, awareness and righteousness, some right ways of doing things. Don't eat pork, eat this. They need that answer spoon fed. However, the ones that are inquisitive, the ones that are young, they could be left with some questions. You know what I mean? You could leave them with some things to figure out. You know what I mean? And with a question like knowledge, it's always good to test ourselves by not having the answer. Understand that what I was doing was an exercise where no one really was going to get the answer. You know what I mean? Even though many of the answers were suitable. If you were teaching this knowledge of self to someone, what is knowledge? What was being answered was correct. But understand, though, that is a very powerful technique of teaching. You know what I mean? To not give the answer. You know what I mean? The etymology of pedagogy. Pedagogy just means the science of teaching. You know what I mean? Right? So when I say pedagogy, it just means the techniques, the reasonings, and whatnot. Right? It's really from the Latin. It's a Latin root that just means education. You know what I mean? And it ends up being meaning the science of teaching. Peace, God. And that's all it means. It just means that. The Latin pedagogia, which means education. Attendance on boys, right? Because it's, from the Greek pedagogia. So it has the Latin and Greek root. So, that's all it means. But in English now, as it is now, it means the science, the techniques of teaching, right? Favorite degree, I'll give it to you later. I think sometimes my favorite degree fluctuates, but it's usually the first degree in the 1 to 40. because I'm a writer, you know. Um, and I always saw that as a writing, excuse me, as a writing degree, right? Makes his history equal to his home circumference. That's every time his history lasts for 25,000 years, he renews it for another 25,000 years. I see that as writing that Quran. You know what I mean? Writing that history. So I've always seen it that way. You know what I mean? So because of those last sentences, you know. But you know, the knowledge degree, the degrees I was just referencing, the in the way that I teach, though, probably the knowledge build degree is very important. You know, very important in my life. You know what I mean? It gives me a methodology of how far to go with certain things I'm teaching. So the 18th degree was the duty of a civilized person. Certainly very impactful. Some of the degrees I love because they're beautifully, I think, I'm not going to say beautifully written. I don't want to give Elijah that much credit. God, I feel like he spoke a lot of this stuff. This is my call. I don't know. But I feel like these things, like the books, you know, they're transcribed after he had said that. So I don't know if he wrote them all, you know what I mean? But the answer to the understanding God degree, Allah is God in the earth and the heaven above, and it's just and true, for there is no one righteous in him, but he's not unseen. He is seen and heard everywhere, for he's all I seen. My degree doesn't have any commas or anything like that, or nothing. It's just one sentence, and it's really a poem. It should be like Allah is God, line, on the earth and in the heaven above, and is just and true. For there is no unrighteousness in him, but he is not unseen. New line. He is seen and heard everywhere. For he is, new line, the all I see. That's how it should be written. But you know, they don't get artsy in the thing. But it's really very poetic to me. You know, the knowledge degree is beautiful, of course. You know? It's a lot of degrees. You know what I mean? Which degrees I don't like? The degrees I don't like are the ones I forget. So if I have trouble quoting, though, it means I hate it, right? Oh man. Kareem, you said the rise. Once you say rise of the Dominican gangs, it sounds like it sounds like a documentary. The rise of the Dominican gangs, a problem in the social equality as far as the youth are concerned. I ask because we know gangs are negative, but I have met some of these brothers, and they seem to be, a lot of them, economically sound, have some sense of morals. Maybe. I don't think that's because of the gangs, though. I think that's because of their families, and they're just trying to unite. So you never know. You know what I mean? The problem is that whenever youth unite and gang together, the only enterprise that they can keep them together is usually illegal. You know what I mean? Right? Because if they're not a gang, what else are they going to do for legal tender? You know? And that's another problem. All right, some good stuff here. Let me get to reading here. Quatis, you said to assemble, 8, matter. Oh, to assemble. Okay, to assemble. Assemble is build. To assemble matter and or thoughts into living elements of interaction. It's a good sense. In a practical sense, I approach this principle with the question of how am I making this a true statement and not some epic soundbite, even though you did just make it an epic soundbite. Right? Because to assemble matter and our thoughts into living elements of interaction. That's nice. The detailing of my intentions provide that validity. Some of those areas of design are a deep awareness of self, a stronger body, and the foundation of a unique culture. To build anything of significance is a process and takes great effort. Learning Learning what skills one needs to manufacture their ideas has not been so easy for me. No, sometimes finding tools and figuring out what tools to use are difficult, but very strong. Peace to the God Master, aka E Blanding here. Saeed, you said today's math is build, destroy. Build means to add on, destroy means take away. Build is to mathematically, universally change all. Indeed, indeed it is. Okay, Quatis, you added. It is so interesting because it again points to the who and what of oneself is. That answer informs so much of our lives. It shapes what our intentions would be for one. The concept of build destroy is represented by the numeral 8, Saim says. 8 turned sideways is the infinity symbol, two ciphers feeding each other. You can just add on or you can just take away. However, when you build and destroy simultaneously, now you are bringing about a mathematical universal change to the cipher. I see it. Good full circle in that build. Quatis, you continue and it also tackles notions of envy, looking at what someone else has or is and being unhappy for them. But if we are clear on who we are, the more clear we can be on what is in line with what we should have become and can congratulate instead of hate on what others have assembled for themselves. Hikarim, pedagogius from Old Moorish Latin instructors, teachers, trainers, educators. Yes, thank you for that, Hikarim. Indeed. How does one build and destroy simultaneously? Calm Islami, good question. But everything that you have built has already destroyed what has been there. When I write something on the open page, that page was once empty of thought and ideas. So now the reality of that life with that empty page no longer exists. It has been destroyed. And there is how it's done simultaneously. Malik, you said build is to construct, elevate mentally and physically, and destroy the negative aspects of life, which is lemonscape. I have never heard of that word by reading a typo. Or infinite, as the universe expanding and deconstruct, thus ever expanding. Okay, I got it, but I didn't get that word. Lemniscate, right? Okay, you're using the algebraic term. Okay, right. Crafty. I get you. So you said build and construct, elevate mentally and physically, and destroy the negative aspects of life, which is lemonscate or infinite, as the universe expanding and deconstruct, thus ever expanding. That's a tough way to get there, but you got there. That's peace, calm Islami. Okay. Calm Islami. All right. What do we have? We can see building of build, destroy, and affect within the fields of physics, Islam says, where concepts that were built up and are advocated at the entry level became sublated or destroyed at the quantum level. Interesting, interesting. I don't know if I would say build and destroy. Somewhat. I mean, they're not really destroyed, but certainly not as clear cut. You know, certainly not as clear cut. You know. Hmm. Random question: do other people create content under the S Street banner? I saw something that seemed to be completely off brand from what you usually post under that same banner. Yes, S Street Media. It is a podcast station, so there are many podcasts of many different subjects. So you will see shows that are definitely not what I would do. It's some of the more outlandish shows, though. I know who they are, and they're good people, though. But I certainly, I definitely wouldn't do that. But it's a station. You know what I mean? Consider it more like a TV station or anything like that. They'll have shows that will be totally different from each other. You know, I don't know if the God is in here, but the God Knowledge Allah goes by. He sent me email me some questions. yeah. You saw some savage quantities, but yeah, don't worry. Yeah, it's a very diverse station. Though you're not gonna see me do that though. But there's all types of stuff that the station has. You know what I mean? But the God Knowledge Allah sent me some questions, and I would just like to begin to answer them. They were good questions, and they go in line with what we were talking about as far as gentrification and things like that, right? So just give me a moment while I call that up. All right. He asked me, what is my definition of a working collective? Quote, collective, right? That takes many. I've been part of working collectives. I am part of working collectives. So it's a good segue, Kratis, because when I work with the brothers at S Street Media, we are part of a working collective. What I can bring to the table are my journalism skills, my hip hop connections, and whatever artistic abilities I have as an artist, as a poet, and whatnot, a lecturer, whatever. So those are the things I bring to that collective. And a working collective allows, in this case, a working collective allows everyone to do what they do, but they certainly don't always interact with everyone else's cosign. You know what I mean? They're under a larger banner, and that integrity, in this case, the working collective, would be based on just putting together the best quality show or the quality works that we have within mentalities and ideas and creative ideas that are coming from each of the individuals, and be that open forum. When you when you are part of a working collective, there are sacrifices that you make for the ultimate goal and the success of the collective. And a lot of times the working collective there are a lot of moving parts that need your input, even though not all of the parts, though, you will advocate or you will agree with or you would do as that is being done. You know what I mean? So whether in the artistic realm or not, all of this becomes important, though. Give me a moment, though. I hear people saying my name. Peace, peace. Actually, online, teaching the class online now. So I teach every Thursday. The students aren't in the classroom. I always go online and teach online. So even if you can't make it, you go back on YouTube, you can watch the class. I know Dark Kid does this class. I just saw him on the way. Yeah, I'm here every Thursday at 7. If I'm not here, I'll be online. Peace, peace. Oh, that's peace. That's peace. Appreciate it. I'm actually live on now. Oh, okay. All right, so I'll get back to class. All right, I am back. Where were we? Now, okay, I had answered one of the questions. I will take a break to read some of the comments here. Okay, Kareem. Build is to add on. In one sense, it is being an asset to society. In another, it is reproducing or having children. Destroying is to subtract negative aspects of life and equal with building, not a positive or negative. There are no negative aspects of supreme math and alphabet. Yes. That's P.E.A.C.E. Kareem. Yeah. You know, the lone low life with the home sewn garment. You know what I mean? Right. One of my favorite tools to learn with, as far as Kung Fu. There are many, but nothing is as fun as the dummy. I do it every session. I work out. I train 5 days a week. At least 10 minutes on that dummy in those sessions. So, but anyway, I got my dummy at home. You know. But what he Kareem said. Look at what he Kareem said. Building in one positive aspect, in one sense, is being an asset to society. Is another is reproducing or having children. Destroys to subtract negative aspects of life. Now you see that you can do that. One actually ends up doing both. When you build, you can actually simultaneously be destroying negative realities. It's an actual fact. Okay? An absolute actual fact. All right, let's see. How about X in the supreme alphabet? I don't necessarily see it as a negative aspect, more like a neutral state directly before asking why and gaining knowledge. You're asking about X by itself, the X in the supreme alphabet. I never saw it as a negative aspect. If there was no concept of unknown, then we would never make things known. So what I always say is that the creator is always in the unknown. You see, we bring things to the known. So our mindset is comfortable in the unknown. When it becomes comfortable in the unknown, not knowing, things are going to happen, what will be, then that means that we can get to that known space. We make it all known. All of these ideas come from us. So the unknown is where we are in. We are comfortable in that unknown and able to work in that space, that easel. We are comfortable seeing that blank page, that empty space. You see? So I don't think that I would see it as negative. Now, let me continue on to the questions that the God asked. I hope that my answer to the working collective was useful. LT, you said peace to the cipher, peace. As we all know and say, builds to add on to the positive, destroys to take away negative. I've been saying for quite some time. Okay. Peace to the God. Good question. Should there be a collective and organized effort centered around the creation and implementation of a concrete economic blueprint for the nation? Why or why not? I can't answer a question like that without doing something like this. The God asked me a question that produces headaches. It's caused many a headache. I'm just trying to show you what life has been these 20 plus years with knowledge when it comes to having some type of economic collective. It is very difficult. It is very difficult. I think that some of the chances we had to really engage some of the gods that had real economic solutions were not engaged in. I think that for the most part, everyone has their heart in it. Okay. I also think that when we talk about something that's independent, you're not going to find something more independent than the gods and the earths. Nothing. A school that takes no money, that takes nothing from anyone, refuses it, doesn't acquiesce to anyone's demands while it's been in the middle of money-making Harlem. You know what I mean? That says a lot. You know what I mean? That says a lot. I think that in my personal life, I have always been willing to sacrifice money. I am not the best teacher to teach you how to go get rich. It has deliberately not been a goal of mine. And because of that, I've been able to sacrifice things that normally people would not sacrifice. And in my own mind, and I say leave it as that. I think it's understanding, but I leave it like that. In my own mind, I think many of the things economically I have sacrificed have been the only way to teach this, have been the only way to show and prove this, because I do, unlike most anyone, and I don't, this is not the way most people see it or have to see it or should see it. But I was taught to teach here. And so I hold a different type of banner that goes along with my universal flag. That the life I live cannot be excused now as like, well, we give the knowledge to everybody, so you don't know what they do with it. That with the responsibility I've taken here to teach, I find that unacceptable. So the successes and the failures that I would have as an individual, they cannot be morally bankrupt. They cannot be savagely successful, let alone fall, into some devilish pit to keep appearances. And when you look at the people that have no matter what anybody says, there is a special group of 5%ers that had to make their own collectives that at best all we could do was economically allow or economically fulfill one thing, and that was allowing everyone else to get the knowledge and still remain independent. You see, we take it for granted. People got the knowledge of self, and they could do things that they don't have to answer to a collective. You see? When I deal with the knowledge, I'm talking about me, so you understand. When I deal with the knowledge, the way I see it, if I say things like low lives, if I say things like martial arts, whatever I represent has to be shown and proven as something that is worthwhile and right and exact, or cannot represent it. I cannot represent it if it merely fulfills. So there are even things that in the organizations or the collectives that I am a part of that I deliberately don't even try to engage in, because that is not what I do, and I would not accept that as being representative of this nation. And how many people, before they say, where's the economic collective for this nation of 5% nation of gods and earths, where are they saying, no, are the actions that I live in every single aspect that I live? Because I didn't say something like I'm a talented artist of blank. I'm a talented carpenter in this blank. No, I said I was God of the universe, the entire universe. And so when I when I teach that truth and live out that truth as that's me, and I live it out under this banner of the people that have it today, this 5% nation of gods and earths, because we didn't invent this truth, but we carry it. We have carried it the last 50 plus years. And people did not have it and carry it like this for hundreds hundreds of years. Even the place that we got it out of, the NOI, does not carry it that way. So we're the first in a millennia to do that. The first in possibly all time. Possibly all time. To teach it to the youth. So when you say the difficulty of making an economic collective, the economic collective has to be made up of people first that are willing to have every part of their life be a suitable representation of what the true and living God is. And we teach people that are not like that. We teach people in the gutters. We teach the grimy. We teach all those. We are not holy. We are righteous. But what about that next generation? It's a different responsibility. What does it look like, someone like me, to not be under that higher echelon of expectation? And so the economic collective has been consistently used to allow everyone else, though, to engage as part of this nation and yet still be independent, where not every single aspect of their life is under the scrutiny of, is this godly as God? Does this build and born? Does this add on knowledge, add on to the cipher? And the answer is like, man, no, man. And see, that's the thing. An economic collective, half of the people aren't even living this right. And then make an economic collective, and who gets to, right? And we're all independent thinkers, so who gets to judge that? See how it becomes so very difficult. And then there is a deeper respect that is earned for those that have added on. Like legends like P.E.A.C.E. You know what I mean? The Allahs, the firstborn princes, the dark hymns. That they have been here. That there was a blueprint and that I didn't have to reinvent the wheel at all. I only had to add on new things. I was allowed to innovate. I didn't have to innovate a foundation. I just had to innovate. Uh, well, LT station, grammatically, I wouldn't worry so much about it. I used to worry about it, try to change the grammar, but that was the way it was given, so we work with it, including the math with the or. Or is a choice, though. Okay, it doesn't mean that when we build on that degree or any other degree that we just keep it to that grammatical limitation. I mean, clearly, when we say things like doing the knowledge or anything like that, we're not. Obviously, we are concerned with getting it right and exact at the expense of the grammar, right? So it's not really. If we were going by grammar, or is enough to separate them as a choice of one or the other, right? When we say build or destroy, it's really what mentality are you going to deal with in that day, right? But I'm glad you said something. That's peace. Yeah. But a very interesting, We certainly can make an economic collective. I think that the way the school looks now is so much better than it once looked, and that was based on economic collectives. It, I think it's still based on if everyone does something that is beyond their means and pushes themselves to one aspect, one thing, one one work of excellence for this nation, just one, that would be good enough. Your LT station, I noticed that LT likes to really argue about the semantics of things, and that's cool, and I do that too if I was editing works, but whether it's the degrees that the father put, math and alphabet, or it's the 120 lessons, the constrictions of grammar are not necessarily need to be bent here. They are to be kind of like ignored if you have an understanding. That would be the case with build destroy. The or. Right? There are more questions here. There are two more good questions. I hope that I answered the questions. I'm going to take a quick break here. All right, let me take a quick break. Let loose some fluids. Use the restroom, and I will be back.
Mr. Man. Hey, God. See you when I see you.
Okay, it's very possible. Something got lost in the translation. LT, you know. All right, very possible. I'm not gonna. I don't want to. You know what I mean? Right. Right. But certainly, if we broke. I see it. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying, LT. No, definitely, the point is well taken. I don't disagree with it. All right, what are we doing here? That's peace, LT. Definitely. Yes, yes, God. Peace to the God, Kasim. I am back. I'm here. Yeah. All right, let me answer those two questions that were about. Where is it? I don't even know where it is now. Peace, 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 peace. All right. What's your name, God?
Messiah.
Messiah, peace, God.
You on class tonight?
Indeed, I'm online right now answering a question. You know what I mean? But some of the questions that I was asked was about collectives, organized collectives, and us as a nation making a collective. You know what I mean? I had different answers. You know what I'm saying? Definitely, definitely. I had a different, different. Please, please, yes, yes. Different answers than the normal, God, because as a collective, people worry about the 5%, how we deal with each other economically. Let's make an economic collective. You know what I mean? Peace to God.
Peace.
But there's
Rightfully so. I would say we should.
however,
We have to.
what people don't take into scrutiny here, right? Is that the economic collective that has been done so that way this nation could stay independent. And in order for that to be independent, meaning that young God there can live his own life though, and it's not really necessary that he be around here. That's a fact. That's a fact. And if you're teaching this just so people can be assets, peace, God. What?
You got him?
Yeah, I'm good, God. I'm good.
With him?
Say again?
If you don't do something with him,
Yeah, he's good. He's good.
okay.
What are you talking about, Josh?
You wanna know he gonna teach you something, or else you gotta come out with me.
This is class. We teaching class, right?
You good, God. You good, God.
Okay,
Stuff. Sometimes you gotta ask, what's that about?
let me build on this, right? Because I don't know if when I explained it, people got what I was saying here. You know what I mean? When you get this, when somebody gets this knowledge, we give it out free. We give it out free not because it's a truth. It's just true. Whether we organize this shit, like we didn't organize all this. The father didn't organize all this, get the school and everything, get a flag, all that, and then say, okay, this shit is ours only. The truth is that the foundations of this entire nation are based on something that is basically common knowledge. Supposed to be. The only thing that's not in that sentence is that it's not common, but it's knowledge. And you can't own knowledge. You see what I'm saying?
So I was building with Shabazz earlier.
So now, right. So now, the freedom for the gods to build, to go through their love, hell, or right, to do things that's not always right and exact, and get to that place. That's a freedom, though, that is afforded. Because we don't look at people and say, well, you're not really part of this because you did something that might have not been perfectly holy, pure. You did something tampered or wrong. The truth is, you're not doing that. People always get on like, oh, he's got to have the knowledge right. You got to have everything. No, we're penalizing or in our mindsets because we're not beating people up anymore. In our mindset, if they're not right and exact, it's because with this knowledge, it's because they said they knew things that they didn't know. If they didn't know shit, then it'd be okay. But the peoples in this nation, their individual morality is not checked.
Because
In other words, God, right? When you come here, right? Nobody really knows everything that you did. The only way that you could show and prove the morality of your existence is by the product of your works. God used to be able to kind of do that because they were teaching. But you know that no matter how many people you would bring, that doesn't prove that you was right and exact with everything you was doing. You see? So like another religious organizations, they expect your entire morality to be under check. You know what I mean? And then why you're not going to be doing certain things. You're not going to be doing those things. You're going to be doing these certain things. But over here, you know what I mean? We expect you not to eat the pork, but we can't really prove that. Religious organizations, they would expect you to be able to even show these things. You know what I mean?
we'll see it though. You can see it by a person's physical appearance. It's like if you've been in this nation for years.
I'll say this.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
And you've been like overweight for years, then obviously you haven't been applying or you haven't been eating the right foods. You know what I'm saying?
But that would be eating the wrong foods.
You gotta if you have like a certain disorder or something like that that may contribute to the reasons why you're overweight.
But I would disagree with you, God.
But as far as
in this nation, I know gods that is true and living with this knowledge. And they've eaten the wrong foods.
So then
because they're obese. There are plenty of people in this nation that's obese.
That really shouldn't be. That's something.
No. But you see what you said?
That's something that should be checked.
Right. And we keep that there. What should be. And what should be and what ought to be isn't necessarily what the success of the economic collective that has existed. Okay, because I can't talk about an economic collective because people will build on it like it never existed. All of the shit that you walk into in this building is an economic collective that has been built on no kind of linkage, no working with, no team ups, no coordinations with any group in this city. You see? No other religious organization, nothing. And so that's a big deal. You know what I mean?
Peace, God. To add on to that, how I see that situation is like, like you say, not linking with other organizations, or organizations in general, because some say we're not an organization. Um, but I would say that we should unify with with different groups of people for the fact of unity. You know what I'm saying? We don't necessarily have to take on their teachings, and they don't necessarily have to take on our teachings.
Mhm.
But just show the fact that we have some kind of unity amongst us as a people,
Right.
in general. You know what I'm saying?
See, the thing is, God, right?
Putting our whatever different.
I'm not giving you. I'm not giving you. To answer this question, I'm not giving the idealism. That's an idealistic answer. That has not been the truth. You see? And I'm saying that from experience. I know this for a fact. You know what I'm saying? This is the work that I've been in. This school, nearly every fruitful connection that could be made has often been with some type of string attached to it. And so in many respects, those who have really organized have preemptively decided not to work with people just so that that relationship wouldn't reach that point. And what I'm saying ultimately, though, is that the connection, the collective that you see, the economic collective you see breaks that has existed, has broken up this nation into two groups. And I don't mean broken like a violent breaking, just a parting of categorization. That there are gods and earths in this nation where their entire life is under the scrutiny of said nation. This is a fact. And then there are the majority of people that have knowledge of self, that are gods and earths too, that their life is not under any of this type of scrutiny. And most of the people that argue about the economic collective being insufficient are the people on this side, not the people that have labored here, labored with great insufficiency, lack of economic know-how in some respects, not great at budget, just simple shit, you know what I mean? But they were the ones that their whole life is under scrutiny. You see, and I say that because that has been my experience. I don't care what anybody says to me. The life that I have lived teaching at this school means that my life is under a different scrutiny than the average person with knowledge of self. I am expected to be a certain way even outside. You see? And I welcome that because this is what I wanted to be, and this is truly what I am. I have no qualms about that. And I balance these worlds very effortlessly. So if you watch a podcast of mine, or if you watch another show of mine, if you see the art that I develop, it all fits in well because it's very natural for me. I made it seamless, but it doesn't mean that other people are not ready for that. And if people want to make an overt economic collective in this nation, then they have to be willing to be under more scrutiny. That to be God in many respects is to be judged at every single moment. And see, I think that's one of the things that most people are not ready for. Real quick here, there's a lot of comments here, but I'm pretty sure that's Inf for Allah Schools in Mecca. He's asking, is that Messiah Hardy?
Lord Messiah Allah in the building.
Peace. All right. And I didn't even answer the other two questions, so I'm going to answer them now, right? But let me read some of the comments here. Kasim, you said today's math is build to destroy. I see that as the constant process of change. 8 going after 7. God shows you mathematically that being God is you having the will to build to destroy. Building or destroying, you continue changing your reality by adding on, taking away, which should be the constant, represented by the 8, which is also representation of an ongoing or infinite process. When you build a muscle up, you also destroy it, you continue. And when it heals, it's a stronger muscle. When you're building a house, you're destroying your tools. It's a part of manifesting. Why it comes before born. That's peace, God. LT, you said, I'd love to hear you build and love hella right. You said they have to go through their love hella right. When I've heard God's building, oh, they just say the same thing. They just say, what you love, you will go through hell to make it turn right. Okay. Let me answer that before I get to the other two questions about organized collective. I don't see love hella right. I'm gonna put it as simple as possible. If I have my universal understanding, like that I always go to in my head. Love is intent. Love is the intent that you go into things. Okay. And we would assume that the nature of the original man, though, and the original woman, that their nature is always intact in their intent. And so the intent is always with what? To understand, right? Because you say love is the highest form of understanding. So in that form of love, hella right, love is that intent. Hell is not hell. I don't bear witness to any hell. I don't bear witness to people going through hell as if it was thrown on them. I bear witness to hell as work. Okay? Hell is the work. Hell is the work that you go through, the work that you engage in, the work that you were dealing with. And the truth is that in this interactive reality of creators creating in this creation of ours, right? Many of this work, though, overlaps, interjects, intersects, right? But when all that work is done with that righteous intent, then what you put in only comes out greater, more right, more righteous. So that's how I see it. I hope that was a quick enough answer to answer that. So the third question out of the four, can the fluid structure of the nation, this nation, be a hindrance to the nation when considering future growth and development? Well, I kind of was pre-answering that. I didn't read the question. I was kind of pre-answering that because anytime you grow, you're making economically, because economically is really what we're thinking about when we talk about a collective, organizing collective in the community. Whenever this comes some kind of future growth and development, can be a hindrance if the new forums that are being made, because that's what I consider the reality of our schools so far, is this nation, the foundations of education. The foundations of education are not just teaching a truth, but also allowing children new and greater forums to engage with the truth. You know what I mean? An example of a forum, simple, is a desk and a chair in a comfortable environment, right? That's a simple version of a forum because a lot of our youth don't have that. Yeah, it sounds crazy, but a lot of our youth don't have a simple forum to just sit down in a relaxed setting to just learn and engage or freely question things, right? So when we talk about forums, this is what I mean. As we engage something economically and we engage with other people economically, then these types of forums can extend themselves. They might need more input from people. And as people get used to them or they become mandatory, we have to like give to get. This is what happens. So it's very possible that there could be a roadblock as we get used to things. But I wouldn't see it as a hindrance. I think the main problem I have, though, is that people have to be willing to build in such a way where they just don't come and build and want only what they want. And that's pretty much been the major difficulty with building. When I got knowledge, I was told that I had to build. And I was never taught by my enlightened knowledge, me, to build what I would like to build. That the first steps in building in the nation is to help others build the things that they have already set up. And sometimes, not sometimes, but most of the time, we have lost our mentoring process in the way that we're teaching people how to build in a nation. You learn how to build in a nation by building with the other projects that are already ongoing. And then once you reach a level to introduce properly and insightfully and willingly, seamlessly, the new projects that you would like to add on. You know what I mean?
Please, what if you introduce an idea or a project, and then the collective may not, be with the project or the idea?
Mm-hmm.
So now, does that mean that you just don't do the idea and you just say, you know what, it was a great idea, but since people don't want to, add on with me, I just won't do it? Or do you still persist and make knowledge born, regardless if others don't want to join or add on?
See, in a proper mentoring process, all the youth would be precocious. They would be ahead of their time, right? Because the babies are the best part, the babies are the greatest, right? So they would always have ideas that would be next level. You know what I mean? This always happens. And they would have ideas that wouldn't be quite ready yet. In that mentoring process, they would be told, this is our reasons why it isn't ready yet or isn't viable. So I think that the first step would never be to quit the plan or the idea, right? But to really find out the reasons why they were giving that, why the plan isn't suitable at that particular moment.
Now,
You see?
now let's say,
So they
let's
could
say-
counteract or propose,
now
but
let's-
also probably learn, because there probably might have been something in there that they didn't catch on to.
or weren't in the know of. Let's say if a situation maybe like say you think of an idea, right, and you present it to me, and I'll be like, man, because with all ideas it takes work, to make it manifest and bring it into fruition. But you bring the idea to me, right, and I'm just lazy. And I don't want to read up on what you're telling me. I don't want to get into the information and be in the know.
Mhm.
And and this is what I have to do. Like, I have to read books and stuff and learn stuff.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to do all of
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So, and on top of that, even if I did get all that information, I don't want to physically pick up a tool and do nothing to help you. So instead of me saying, what, you got a great idea, but I'm just too lazy to add on to it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go around to everybody else and say, yo, man, that nigga on some next shit, man. What are you talking about, man? Now Cypher car. Yo, man, nah. Get him down. What are you talking about? Yo, man, nah. But the reality is, it may just be that
I'll say this though, in my experience,
and I just want to get off my allow self-savior and do something. But I would say this though, right? I'm gonna spread the vibe that it's something wrong with you,
with the youth,
your idea.
With the youth, it might always feel lazy, even without it being that way. I'll tell you this though, because of the responsibilities thrust on the existing economic collective, those people that really do put in the work, right, but are always undermanned, they overestimate or overvalue, right, their judgment of choice and what ought to be done. You know why? Because they're like, you got this great idea, but you ain't gonna stick around for it. Right. This is always the counter.
It's like the thing with Wu-Tang. You see in the documentary Wu-Tang, you see how Divine, he was out in the street doing what he had to do to fund what they was doing. And the other people that was like doing the lyrics and putting in the work, they was like, man, but you ain't putting in the work and you ain't doing it. But he's doing his work in his way to fund what y'all trying to do.
Right.
So he is.
You don't always see.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. And that's why for a working collective to really work well, everyone has to be educated on each other's working parts. Right. You know what I mean? Right. And a lot of times the youth in this nation, I think that a lot of the burden of keeping it all together has been thrust on people that don't always know how to do it. And I've been around where people have neglected really good ideas. And I said, damn, man, that looked like some 10% and things like that. But I'd look on the next couple of months and see everything that they predicted of the great ideas brought by that great idea person abandon the entire thing.
You know why?
So
Because
it kind of is a self-fulfilling prophecy where they end up being correct to say, y'all ain't gonna stick with this, ain't gonna leave me with the bill.
You know what? Let me tell you, I got certain things that I wanted to work on, and I won't let it happen again. But in the past, I've let other people's lack of dedication toward the idea make me feel, like feel discouraged, and then I didn't continue, what I should have just did. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not with that whole like, yeah, well, people want to see the fruition of what you're doing, and when they see you doing something, then they'll add on. Nah, because to me, that's some Johnny come lately shit. You know what I'm saying? Mess. You know what I mean? Like, don't wait till like on some. It's a fictional story, but just using an example.
Okay.
Noah's Ark, right? Noah was building this ark, right? People was coming by and it was like, man, what you doing, man? They was laughing at him and like, saying he was crazy and talking about da. But then when this damn flood came, they was all like, yo, Noah, help me. And they was all crying for help because they didn't know what he was doing. And they wasn't trying to add on to what he was doing. So, just using that story as an example to say that, you know what I mean? In the beginning stages of something, people may not see your vision because it's usually the person with the vision who sees the grand scheme of things. And then sometimes the workers may not see the full scheme of things, so they may not have that ambition.
Part of this mentoring process that I'm talking about is that we need people to also be part of the collective that are not actively engaged in the existing ideas that are being worked, but help to develop future ideas. So the young that come with new ideas, they can pull them aside and help them develop the projects. Even if they're standstill ideas, not being actually engaged just yet. The God Infinite, he said to add on to the question Messiah just posed, I would suggest you go out and show, he meant you rhetorically, go out and show and prove on your own before you go so hard in making this whole a subject to the said idea. And see, he has a lot of experiences myself in this economic collective that exists that I'm talking about. A lot of gods, I think this too. If you say you're part of this nation, right? This is what I say. If you're part of this nation and day in and day out, you're not always responsible for showing and proving to the entire world that you are the representation of what God is as a part of the 5% nation of God on earth. Like everything you do is not going to be held to scrutiny, right? You don't always have the flag on. No, sometimes, you teach some people discreetly, but you teach, you do anything, right? Then that means that when you come with some type of idea to the nation, all of a sudden, you got to have some type of resume. You've got to have some type of way to show and prove that this could be viable, that you will have the lasting power. You know what I mean? And this is something that isn't done. That if you come back to the said nation, you're not just automatically gifted a spot in the collective, that you actually have to show and prove that you actually build. Not just without, but within. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. But it's proven more times than not that the people that daily are in the nation, for example, at the school, doing things, usually are those that are with the responsibility of the collective. Whether they handle that responsibility sloppy, I don't really know their shit like that, that's another story. Let me answer this last question. How does the nation continue to effectively add on with the youth in the world that is rapidly changing how information is delivered and accepted? Well, I would say definitely this, something like this. If you notice for the students online, the way Messiah walked in is a different privilege to get this knowledge yourself than, let's say, somebody that's online. That's an actual fact. You know what I mean? It's a different reality. going and getting this knowledge. You know what I mean?
It's like
Than just logging on,
It's in the flesh.
right? But the truth is, a lot of people can't get it in the flesh just quite yet. And the only way that they get something is through these means. And so one thing I've learned in the last year, going into this year, with all this COVID and doing these classes online, is that is part of the challenge that I thrust on the student. That if you cannot come see me, they're in other countries, they're in other states, then what can you do to go above and beyond the means to show that you are diligently showing improvement?
Start your own class in your own.
See? Start a class in your own. But as a student, while they're in the realm of being a student, that wouldn't be a possibility just yet, right? So then I ask them, how can you show and prove that you're actually using this, that you're living it out, that you're building, that there are things in your life that are changing, that are showing and proving a change? A lot of people don't know that the greatest judgment I use on a student is not really how fast or how well they memorize math, alphabet 120. Those happen to be some of the weaker students in general. The way I judge it, though, is how your life has changed and how well of a command you have over your daily living. You know what I mean? I said that we're all creators. How well are you creating? Are you creating things? Not just that new life, but are you creating? Have you found your gifts? Are you actively engaging in developing new gifts? These are the ways that I judge a student greater than a lot of the other methods.
Peace, God. What would you consider greater gifts and whatnot?
One's talents, the talents that they might have.
But do we have any talents beyond just quoting 120? Like, is there any other requirements to being a 5%?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And that's why that responsibility is out there, God. We're not, that's not what we are, though. 120 says who we are. You're not being what 120 says, though, if you're just able to quote 120, though. You are the true and living God if you're a creator and if you have made a new world for yourself. And that is the greatest way to see a student on their way. You know? To go from a homeless living situation to their own home. You know what I'm saying? To have been a young student in college or in high school to get to college, or in college to figure out all of his abilities, his talents. To figure out the nature by which that they will create in this world. Because we're creators. And it's so funny that most of the people I meet that say they have knowledge don't have a damn thing that they've created. They don't create shit. They're not creators. And we have reduced that to just singing and dancing. We think that's just that. Right?
Please, God. I want to add on something. I just wanted to read something. This here is from the Bomb History by Beloved Allah. There's in the full article that he did, like after it speaks about when it speaks about Allah lives at the end. There's additional information, and this article can be found on la5%.wordpress.com. You go on that site, and the information is at the end of the history.
Okay.
It speaks on leadership and it speaks on economics. I'm gonna just read two brief paragraphs off that. It says for leadership, it says we must understand that Without righteous, assertive leadership, the nation cannot progress nor develop as a whole. Individuals may progress or even small groups, but until we as trained, disciplined leadership, uh, leadership body, the nation's potential will never be realized. Our leadership must be righteous, meaning they must be the example of the right thought and action. Their actions and decisions must always be in the best interests of the Black community. Our leadership must be assertive, willing to stand up for what is correct, regardless of the cost. They must be willing to push themselves, their staff, and programs to reach their greatest potential. Our leadership must be disciplined, willing to carry out their task, even if they do not receive any personal or immediate reward from doing so, resisting all temptation and corruption, and keeping their head when everyone else is losing theirs. These are some of the qualities we need in our leadership. No man or woman is born a leader, although some are gifted with leadership potential, with which must be cultivated in order for it to be realized. There is essential, there it, there it is essential that we develop a leadership potential which must cultivate in order to be realized. Therefore, in the essential that we develop the leadership training program, which will serve to educate our newborn members to develop among us those who have the capacity to lead. This training program will also be designed to prepare one to be successful in dealing with the society at large. And on economics, you scroll down a little more. On economics, it says one of the fundamental one of the fundamental principles of any nation is economics, self-sufficiency. In order for us to be realized, in order for us to realize economic growth and development as a people, we must utilize the strategy of cooperative economics, pooling our resources to provide the basis for economic development. Within our financial resources lies the foundation for an economic infrastructure that will allow us to provide the goods and services that our people need to survive and advance themselves in the 21st century. Food, clothing, housing, education, healthcare, entertainment, etc. Building an economic basis, building an economic base is a must and cannot be overstressed.
I don't.
And Paul, in the last paragraph, it speaks on like we were speaking about as well, coalition and alliance building. The media has been has labeled the nation of God's earth a nation unto themselves, a body we have isolated ourselves. As a body, we have isolated ourselves from the general community and from all other Black organizations. We must begin to build alliances with networks and other community organizations ranging from small Black associations to national organizations. This document was transcribed directly from articles in The Word, Volume 1, July 1987, number 3, August, September 1987, so forth. So,
Indeed, I've read that, God. It's one of the first things I ever got, but yeah, I definitely the God I be. I see break it down written like immediately. I will say this, right? It's an articulation of what teaching the student was supposed to be. When you get this knowledge of self, it's supposed to be a leadership program. I think that for the students that I've been teaching, the students that I've taught, none of what I've taught is really suitable as a standalone teaching of what 120 is and then leave the door. All of it is some type of mentoring. All of it is some type of leadership mentoring because I expect them to deal with this without me there. And that's also why I mean that the collective, you can't have it both ways without acknowledging that there has to be some acknowledgement of that. You teach people to live without the responsibility of having to be here. That's how we teach the knowledge of self. And then you can't say, well, where are all the people that they're not here? It has to be a secondary choice to also be able to. And the people that add on to the school, the people that want to and can, because we're giving it to people that usually cannot. You see? So we actually don't teach the best type of people to recruit to actually build up a nation. You see what I'm saying? Because we are teaching the downtrodden. Now we are teaching the youth, but we're also teaching them with great freedom in their culture. Because they're taking the freedom to say, you are the true and living God, and you must do as you will, and no one can hold you to any kind of scrutiny. As long as you what? As long as you're able to show and prove. You see? So they don't have to come back though and say, I did such and such and such. You see? And that's why the voluntary reality of the show and prove, per se, excuse me, not the show and prove, because that's one event, but the monthly parliament would be kind of the voluntary decision to come back and say, you're my elders, let's scrutinize. This is what I have done. You know what I mean? I always have to show and prove. You see what I'm saying? And I've gotten used to that life, and it is very honorable to me, but it's not the way that everyone has embraced. And truthfully, most people won't, because most people that get the knowledge will not be God. That's a fact. That's a fact. I can say that in these 20 years, I have taught hundreds of students. It's a very small percentage. A very small percentage. And instead of finding easier ways to give it to them, easier ways to accept them, then we should accept that there will only be really a few. And that the truth is that we are not teaching people to be God on earth. We are teaching people of this knowledge of self. And in that pathway of truth, many of the people, nearly all of the people that we teach have the potential, because this is where your percentage can get really high, be righteous and live a civilized life. That's my lowest level. If I see that, hey, I'm teaching these people and they're still beasting out there, and I know that I got to do something. I got to fix up whatever I'm doing. Now, do I go back and go, these people aren't becoming the God? You know what I mean? That is not really my criteria.
We were taught to teach the youth or teach those younger. That's why more so like, I try to focus on those younger than me. Because, you speak to people your age or older, they look at it like, what you telling me, man? I'm the same age as you. I'm older than you. So they ain't going to look at you as if like, he just taught me something. But a younger person, they'll actually be more influenced by you because, they're going to look up to you more so. Like
and that's your opportunity cost, right? You spend time with one, you can't spend time with another. You know what I mean? I have not always had that opportunity because I can teach certain students I choose to outside or continue their studies. But obviously in the classroom here, though, it is voluntarily done. You know what I mean? So I embrace the community, obviously doesn't, COVID changed all that, but Harmony's Heart. I think I've seen you be here before. I'm not sure, but thank you. You said peace, love, and light. I am new to this knowledge and just beginning to learn. Well, the first thing is this. I'm going to share with you my email. That is not it. I wrote half of it. And share with you my email. And then also, I want to share with you the website for the 5% Media and where I keep my columns about this course nearly all the time, unless I don't have anything in my head. I read a column for this class that follows up about whatever I'm thinking, loosely inspired. That could be your first step. Your question said, "How has your life changed since you have attained this knowledge?" I have a very different pathway to the knowledge, though. I didn't live in a neighborhood where people gave it to you, so I had to go get it. You know, you're very welcome. So it was something that I went and looked for. I went and got it. You know what I mean? So when I was finally brought here by the God, Sunez Allah, it was because I was seeking it. I was looking for it, but I didn't know where it was. You know what I mean? How it changes your life is it allows you to. It is the most simplest identity. You know what I mean? And you know, to put it very particular, whenever you study, I come from a Puerto Rican background, right? And some of the most confused identity literature. I don't mean like trans and LGBTQ and that shit. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about identity of like who you are, like your nationality, ethnicity, all that kind of stuff. Some of the most complex literature, literally literature of confusion that have become classics in Puerto Rican literature, are about this confusion of what you are. Are we Spaniard? Are we Taino? Are we African? How is that blend? You know what I mean? Before I got this knowledge of self, my ego was big enough to say that I was God. And my logic was very disagreeable to a mystery God. Okay? But having the actual knowledge of self, it has funneled the power of all of my talents that I was developing, what I became to fruition, and that includes teaching. That includes being an author and being a writer. That includes pretty much everything that I've done. Being a martial artist. I mean, hell, I was taught the martial arts because of the gods. You know what I mean? Our Sigung is not part of the 5%, but he's a friend of the 5%. As close as you can. You know what I mean? An original man, original black man, who pretty much taught my entire generation. You know, the martial arts. You know, so all of these things I learned because I got the knowledge of self. You know what I mean? So it allowed me to find my entire lifestyle, the culture, literally the culture. My culture is in the identity that I have, is in knowing that identity, even able to go into all things. You know what I mean? Being able to take on, you know, the being able to be comfortable in different organizations, whether it's Low Lives, whether it's the collective I told you with S Street Media, all of these collectives, right? The martial arts, being a martial artist though, and having that be part of this knowledge of self. All of these things have been quite fluid because of this knowledge of self. And it changes your life because it is something that simply is true. Simply. You know what I mean? And the truth is, and I'll be honest, most of the people that don't deal with this knowledge I have never had once though. I said, listen, how low is the percentage? The percentage is low as hell. You know what I mean? It's way worse than Shaquille O'Neal's free throw percentage. It's probably his 3-point percentage. You know what I mean? That's how many students become the God, become the earth, right? I used to see Firstborn Prince lament about it all the time. You know? And the main thing I took from that was like, if when I teach, I'm not going to get like that. I'm going to learn to let it go. I'll try harder, but I learn to let it go. You know what I mean? When the day's over, I let it go. I did the best I could. I'll try to learn, but I'm not going to, you know. The thing about this knowledge is that I have never had someone that got this knowledge or was taught by me and not deal with it, but not deal with it by coming back and say, all of this shit is a lie, and then leave. That's never happened. I'm telling you, in 20 years, 20 plus years, this is 20 plus. Actually, no, 21 years. I started teaching in April. So today, this month marks the 21st year I'm teaching this class in this school. I've never once had someone say, this shit is not true. They have left because they were scared to speak in front of the classroom. Can you imagine that kind of shit? Scared to speak in front of the classroom. You know what I mean? And shit, I tell you, I'm a fucking puppy compared. You know what I'm saying? If you fuck up in my classroom, I'll be like, nah, you really messed up there. But you know, I'm not gonna berate you. I'm not gonna make you feel terrible. You know what I mean? I'm gonna get at you, but I'm not. Firstborn Prince will ruin your life, though. I've seen him kick out high school students that didn't know the area of a square. Because he said you should have learned that in high school. He's like, that means you didn't know shit. You weren't paying attention. I had to show and prove my 1 to 40 with a whole elders and firstborns all in the back of the room, including Firstborn Prince. Students should be, you really want this though, you be here front and center though. You know what I mean?
You know, that has its pros and its cons. It has its pros in the sense that if you was really for this and you could take that scrutiny and then still build and become stronger, you know what I'm saying? Then that was something good for you. But then if you took it like and you got emotional and you got intimidated or you got, you felt some kind of way and then that discouraged you, you know, so, and I've seen that happen too. Like so, and in some circles, I'll be like, no, that wasn't even right in his act. The way brothers may handle certain things, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Nah, hey, you gonna take this man's lessons, you gonna strip him down. Like, what is he, a devil? You running him across the Hot Arabian or something? Like, come on. So, but it's like, it's just about how you go about it. Me, I try to, like I was building with his brother, he be calling me sometimes on the phone. He said he met me in front of the school one time. I'm like, I meet a lot of people, you know what I'm saying, in front of the school especially. But but he's like, he's only 2 years younger than me, and I'm like, I'm getting a vibe from him, like, every time you call me, you should be, adding on and then studying and gathering more information. But it's like, if you want me to drill you and give you some feel good information every time you call me, it's like, come on, how are you adding on? It's about, fair exchange. Like, I don't want to be the only one, disseminating information all the time. And it's after a while, you might feel like, yo, man, are you blood sucking me, man? Like, am I the only one? You gotta be aware. You gotta be aware of people like that too. So a lot of blood suckers running around.
See, I think that the best way to ease your mind is to make a distinction, sometimes with that person overtly, outright, but sometimes not always, just within yourself. It depends. That most of the people, that's why I said people ask me my favorite degrees, and it wasn't this one, but it's one of my favorites. One of the most influential to me is the duty of a civilized person, because I'm teaching this, this is what I'm doing. Most of the people are just going to get civilization and righteousness. They're not going to get the nonsense. To me, I saw that as an order.
That's peace, God, and I'm glad you brought that up, because you know what? When it comes to that degree, for a long time, I've been, as they say, putting the cart before the horse. You know what I'm saying? I'll meet people and just start teaching them the knowledge of self and the science of everything
right.
instead of showing them civilization.
Right, God, it's an order, God. It's an order.
Right, exactly.
Civilization. Are they aware of this reality that they're in? Because like the Matrix, maybe they want to eat that steak. They want to be Cypher. They want to eat the steak. And they won't, they don't give a shit. Are they able to hold that? Be aware that this is not the peak of civilization. That maybe the reality of civilizations is ebbs and flows, and we are not in the peak that we think we are in. You know, maybe it isn't so good. And then righteousness. Are they willing to follow certain things once you ruin and rock their world? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because, you know, come back saying that, you know,
damn, man, he said
you ruined my whole life, though. I don't know what to eat. I'm arguing. Yeah, I'm arguing with my mama, right? I got to argue with my mama everywhere I go now. I got to argue with church. I got to argue in the dinner table. I got to argue everywhere. What can I do to make this easier? And you know what? If the kid's young enough, man, you got responsibility now. You got to help him live in that household a little bit. You know what I mean? Because the older guys, they used to always tell me, why is Jamel? He starts telling me that, you know, once he did this, man, he got kicked out because he wasn't going to eat that. You know what I mean? That's extreme, though. But like, you know, like, yeah, for the young, this shouldn't be that difficult like that, right? And like I always say, I learned this personally. We don't eat the pig, but your mama spent money on that. You know what I mean? To feed you. You know what I mean? I learned that because when I decided not to eat pork, I threw that shit off the table. And boy, I felt bad. You know what I'm saying? Put a lot of hard effort into that. And I said, nah, that shit. She said, just eat the rice and beans. And I was like, nah, that shit is gooing into the, it's seeping. It's become part of the meal. Like, it was that glazed ham shit. I was like.
So you know what didn't come along with that teaching is that, well, as a man, if you want to tell your mom that you ain't gonna eat this swine no more, then as a man, you put some food in the refrigerator.
Right.
You put
now
me.
Now here's the thing, guys. Like me, I give that story. Right, I give that story, but I didn't have the knowledge of self when I did that. I was going off beef by KRS-One, and then what really sparked it all the way was Common. Common had a line on the song "Maintain," right? The Resurrection album. He said, "What type of rebel eats pork?" And oh man, that line, because I'm a rebel, right? I'm learning. I'm being radicalized in college. I'm learning about Puerto Rican Revolution. I'm being militant, and I'm like, yo. He said, "What type of rebel eats pork?" It's looping in my head. And I just fucked up, you know what I mean? I did my old earth dirty. Remembered imperfection, my old earth, you know what I mean? But the thing about it, right? The thing about it is that we focus on civilization and righteousness. Then those who's really ready to learn the knowledge, you can give them clues that there's more to learn, but like, you got to see if they could go through the righteousness. That's what the older gods was doing when they was making you fast. They always say that, like, now it's like when you get this knowledge, you got to fast to show and prove. Nah, they was making people fast before they was giving them the knowledge. You know what I mean? Because they wanted to make sure that, like, man, you really built like this? Can you really, you know? And if you're bitching that you can't starve meal, mind you, that should be nothing. That should be light work to do it voluntarily, because coming from neighborhoods where we're starving involuntarily, like, you know what I mean? Now, it's a little different, you know what I'm saying?
When you're doing it consciously.
Yeah, when you're doing it consciously, it's a little different, but you almost there, you know, it's almost there. But at the same time, though, you know what I mean? It saves a lot of headache for the teachers, for the builders out there. If you learn that, listen, find one picture. Put this home, though, that it's not your responsibility to throw the knowledge of self every single cipher you're in. Find a picture anywhere with the father on a podium yelling out stuff. You don't find it, though. But all of our legends that we love, Malcolm X, Pedro, I mentioned Pedro Albizu Campos, right? Legends, revolutionaries all over the world, all over the countries, right? Shit, we could even put Bob Marley in there. We could put anybody in there, Marcus Garvey, everybody. Definitely Marcus Garvey, right? They all took the podium. You know what I mean? They took the podium to yell out things to people that they don't know if they're ready for. The father, tell me if the father's a genius, right?
His father was a Pisces, right? February 22nd.
Now look at the genius of the father, right? Look at the genius of the father, right? He has only a pedagogical tool, like a science of teaching, the way of teaching that he has been shown throughout the entire NOI experience is you get up there and you dazzle them. And you dazzle them to come into the fold. He leaves and he don't even do that shit. Didn't go out there dazzling people, get on the podium. The black man is going to tell you straight up, like, you know, because that's some new shit. That's some new shit. They didn't go out there and do it like that.
Each one teach one.
He didn't do it. He said, you know, I'm going to teach the way I was taught.
Each one teach.
The way I was taught, God, by Hashem and others that left the mosque with him. Especially Hashem used to tell me this. He tells me this all the time. When he noticed when he left the mosque with the father was teaching people like his age in them. But they wasn't really good. They wasn't receptive. So this thing, like the babies are the greatest, these are understandings that he went through it to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? And so that turned the approach. You don't teach no babies by hollering at no podium. You teach the babies by, you know, going up to them, playing with them, engaging them, talking to them. How do you teach the teens? Because these are like teens in the street that he taught. Teens in the street.
Come to them with popular subjects.
Relate to them.
Come in like
know their struggle, though. He didn't criticize them. Oh, you boosting this. Why Jamel used to be boosting, though? He said he didn't get his flag from the father because he was boosting that day. He always regretted that. He used to always tell me that story. But there were people that he didn't judge. And he tried to find their way. Like, what are they about? What are they doing? You know what I mean? Because he's going to go far with them and he's going to find out where does he cut it off. You cannot do these things. You see? And that's the thing about a teacher. When you're teaching the truth, you're teaching a righteous lifestyle, there is a moment in that student's life where now you say, you got this, right? You're not doing this. Or you're not with this. And we're going to expect you to reach these peaks. We don't know what they are because they're yours, but we expect you to reach them. When I got knowledge of self, I started quote 120 and shit like that. I was like, yo, I keep coming to class, but I'm like, yo, knowledge me, I knowledge 120 though. You know what I mean? And he said, I'm a teacher. First day I ever took a class, knowledge me heard me build. And he took me inside after class and said, if you keep on, you'll be able to teach it. So he said, first day of class, I took it. Now, mind you, I came here and I had memorized math, alphabet, and the 1 to 10 already. Because I didn't know. The God Day son didn't tell me. He kept telling me they bomb you if you're not writing exact. So I was like, I memorized everything he had because I was nervous. And I didn't know this side of Harlem. I only knew Spanish. I was like, they're not going to fuck with me. I'm not black enough. I don't know these fucking Puerto Rican. I didn't know nothing. So I was like, let me come prepared. So I finally got 120. I'm thinking like, yo, it's easy. Like, we just come in. Maybe I'll teach other people. Blah, blah, blah. He said, now that you got this, you got to make something. What do you know how to do? I said, you know, I'm a writer. I'm a writer. You know, I write for magazines and shit. This is 1999 and shit. He said, go make one. I said, what? You know what I'm saying? He put you on the spot to show and prove that you're a creator. Well, what do you create? What do you engage in? He stepped up the game of creation. Don't just get an article in there, create your own. And I'm not one to teach you no, you know what I'm saying? And we went out there. I couldn't just make a website and say, yo, this is my magazine. You know what I mean? And just do that. Had to go get funds and print out my own magazine. You know what I'm saying? And sell it in the nation. And I did. So when I tell you about creating, this is what I'm talking about. You have to find what you're great at and see how you can step it up to the next level. We're all creators here. We're creating a new world by how we deal with things. And before that, though, that's why the babies are the greatest, because they disrespect this world the best. They don't believe shit. A lot of us though, when you get older, you start believing stuff because it's worked for you. You know what I mean? It's worked out for you. This is the best you could do. You can't take new shots, you know? But the challenges, you know, that's the mark of a student. So even with you, all you brothers and sisters online, how far will you go to be a student? Some of the students, they go beyond. They're in Germany, they're in other countries, right? They're in different states. So they go, listen, get this WhatsApp soon. Just look, and I'm gonna call you, I'm gonna bill, or I'm gonna show you the things I'm making. I can't tell a student that he didn't show him proof. You know what I'm saying? So in this new world, as this new world adapts and stuff, we gotta adapt to how we teach the whole world. Because they continue daily. You know what I'm saying? They continue daily. So we can't just say, I like it personally. Me, I like it. I like it like this. I like it. You know what I mean? It's not what the fuck I like, though. You know what I mean? I lived in Medina, though. They said the route was in Mecca. I said, okay, I'm going to go all the way from where I was in Sunset Park. Not one motherfucker in my heart was like, what the fuck are you doing? Where are you going? And I'm going, taking that R to the D all the way up here, writing down shit, staying all night, going back home tired as fuck. You know what I mean? But it's an hour and a half, all that kind of shit to study lessons, all that kind of shit. So I did it. But now we got the whole world at our fingertips, though. I'm comfortable with it because that's what happens when you write. When you write something, it has to live on its own. You can't be like, nah, I wish I said it. You know what I mean? Nah, it's fucking out there. You know what I mean? You got to be daring enough to say, that's me. That's right there. You know, it's live and die with that. And I've been doing that for years. Over a quarter century. So this ain't no different. But you students have to do a lot. Got to go above and beyond.
I would say, knowledge builds confidence. And that was very key what you said. You said the simplest identity. You know what I'm saying? Knowledge itself, yeah, that's exactly what it is. The simplest identity, because who else can you identify better than yourself? You know what I'm saying? Like, or what would be hardest to figure out other than, or more easier to figure out. Right. Because the only way you would say you don't know yourself is if you're in denial. You know what I'm saying? People, we lie to ourselves all the time about certain things about our reality. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to expose ourselves or admit certain things to ourselves, so we lie to ourselves. You know what I'm saying? But knowledge itself will give you that reality. Like, yo, listen, at the end of the day, beginning of the day, and throughout the day, this is who I am. I can't hide it. It's just I'm just gonna be who I am. You know what I mean?
We only have a couple of minutes left. This class ends at 10. I'll give you an example, personal example, since I had said it. I don't know if Harmony's Heart is still listening. When I meant the simplest identity, it's because knowledge itself means that it never really ends either. So you continue to do the knowledge and you're always simplifying at all times. Say a Puerto Rican is a Spaniard, an Arawak, and an African. The African is the original man. They are also original people, the Arawak. And then when you study the Spaniard, though, they are the half original blooded whites that were ruled by the Moors for over 700 years and then decided to exile them to take their own stake and have their own hand with the knowledge, and wisdom, and blood that was given to them by those Moorish empire, which is black. So then a Puerto Rican is filled just with a lot of different kinds of black. You know what I'm saying? A lot of different kinds of black, a lot of contradictory realities, a lot of horrifying histories, a lot of beautiful histories. But this is what makes up humanity. And when you simplify it, though, it is who's the original man? Who is the original woman? And even those that I teach that are not original, those whites, their history is simplified too. No matter how degraded and how devilish the history of your peoples are, you have one simple reality. You could be the greatest rebel and be a righteous man or woman. Because there's no greater rebel than the white man that's being righteous. Black man be righteous, though. That's been his nature. You know what I mean? The white men that I know that's righteous, though, they some rebels. You know what I mean? They go against all types of history and epigenetics and all kinds of shit.
And the
And
ones,
coding.
the ones amongst them
White privilege and all that
actually
shit.
try to do some kind of right, they label them to be the bad guys. But then meanwhile, the ones that's actually doing the dirt, they try to seem like, oh, we're the nicest people in the world.
And that's why I say they're the rebels, you know what I mean? But with that said, you have the email, have this thing. As I always say, keep healthy, keep creating, keep building. Look for the column. I should write, as usual, a column. I may or may not, but there are many columns there now at the 5% Media. If you're interested in writing anything in any form, let me know. Okay, I have forms, including the 5% Media if you want to write your bills. And Born Reality, I'm going to read your stuff. It was so long, I got lazy. You know what I mean? But seriously, I didn't have time to really give it a good reading because I want to read your work, though, with the red pen. Okay? But with that said, contact me, email me, go above and beyond, and pester me. You are allowed to pester your teacher. All right? So with that said, peace.